On one side, we have our jobs, our families, our responsibilities, money, all the luxury, and on the other side, we have spirituality. Do these things combine? Are they mutually exclusive? Do you have to leave one to pursue the other? How do you strike a balance between these two? Let's talk about that in today's video. Hello, good people of the internet. Welcome to another episode of Ask a Human, Not an AI with Chetan Narang. Today's question, another anonymous one, is this. I'm a BBA grad looking for career and spiritual opportunities simultaneously. That'll do it. I have recently experienced the cruel reality of people these days, exactly as it's called the Kalyug era. So I was a little confused about whether to continue being in this materialistic world, working hard, finding a job, earning well enough to sustain life, or should I choose spirituality, like the sannyas thing, as that's the ultimate truth of life. It's not as if the world will improve anyway, and people aren't really going to change, so why should I keep compromising on my morals by being with such people? Even if I get a good job, who knows whether that will resolve everything? Serious stuff. This question that you've asked, I think this is something that every spiritual seeker reaches this question at some point in their lives. And this is a very interesting part because it's like we understand how pendulums work, right? Pendulums always swing from one extreme to the other. And it's almost after having swung between extreme positions for some period of time that the pendulum comes to rest in the middle. It's almost that way with our lives too, with our spiritual awakenings too. Now, for someone who is born into the materialistic world, this is the extreme position of being too attached with the materialistic world, with your job, your career, your family, etc., and be too enchanted by it. The other extreme position is to be absolutely disenfranchised by society, by relationships, by careers, by jobs, by money, etc. And it it's very normal for people to consider that this is what is happiness. This extreme position of what you call sannyas right now is what is the ultimate truth of life. Remember that these are two extremes, and wrestling between these two extremes are so many spiritual seekers who believe that they need to find an answer, but somehow it's very clouded. And for almost all of us, we try to strike a balance between the two, and it takes a lot of courage firstly to strike a balance between these two. But courage is what spirituality is all about. True spirituality is going to be always about courage. At least acting out your truest spirituality is always going to be about courage. So I want to tell you that I do not want to approach this question in a binary manner, as if I can tell you that no, you should not be looking to quit your current life to become spiritual, and neither will I tell you that you should not you should not try to integrate spirituality within your modern life. What I would want to tell you is that it is absolutely subjective, it is relative, it depends on your current situation. I would tell you that for almost all of us, the majority of blockers that prevent us from acting out our highest selves in our everyday lives are mental blockers. And therefore, almost all of us do not really need to quit or move away, absolutely permanently away from everyday life to become spiritual. Firstly, this idea of being a sannyasi, going to that other end of the pendulum, is actually an idea that we have sold ourselves in the name of spirituality. Whenever we imagine ourselves being spiritual, what we imagine is maybe the first part of the life of the Buddha, where he had quit his life, he had quit his life in the kingdom, and he had moved on from all the money, all the riches that his father had, and he had moved on into an ascetic life, and he was living under a tree and meditating and whatnot. We assume that to be spirituality, and that is spirituality. But what we forget is that that is not where the Buddha remained, isn't it? He came back and he imparted everything that he learned, that he realized, to people around him. He could have also thought that it's not as if the world will improve or people are going to change, right? But he didn't, because the highest self that he was able to conjure at that moment was that the world needs him. If you think about it, you're saying that people are absolutely selfish and you're seeing the cruel reality of people, and you are considering to take a sannyas and move on. How is that not selfish? Now, I know this is wordplay, but consider that for a moment. You are actually thinking that people here are absolutely selfish, and therefore I need to move away from there and I need to find my peace. That is selfish too. But by all means, you should do that, because it's not like there can be world peace without peaceful human beings. So you first need to be peaceful with life before you can actually impart that peace to others. So I'm again not talking in terms of binaries that this is something that you should do or should not do. But what I mean to tell you is that the idea of this extreme position of giving up everything and living as a sannyasi or as an ascetic is spirituality. That is, I would say, an incomplete idea, because even for the Buddha, he came back. He came back and he acted out of the highest self he was able to conjure at that moment. And that, if anything, is spirituality. So, for you specifically, since you say that you are a BBA grad and you're looking for career and spiritual opportunities, I think that is the balance that you need to draw. What you need more than anything else in your life right now is a purpose in your life. What you need is to find out what is it that moves the core of your being right now. What is it that you think really needs to be done in the world right now, and bring out your highest self and act from that highest self in the world. That, if anything, is spirituality. And if I take it one step further, I would also tell you that dedicate all of your energy in the current moment to that goal, but also realize that you need not be so rigid about that goal, because you will change as time goes on. And therefore, at any moment in your life, try to conjure the highest self that you can conjure up at that moment. All of this happens in the form of cycles. So maybe become more aware of when a particular cycle is ending for you, appreciate and acknowledge that change, conjure up the highest self at that moment, and act from that place. That, if anything, is spirituality. And if you do that, you would not have to ask me this question as if whether it should be this extreme for you or this extreme for you. You will manifest a balance of that two, which is particular to your own life. No one else can give that answer for you. And that's it. That is spirituality. So I think that, like I mentioned previously, for almost all of us, the major blockers that we face that prevent us from acting out our highest selves in our day to day lives are mental blockers. And our first job as spiritual seekers is to unlearn the attachments to all of those mental blockers. And yes, it is our egos that are too attached to those mental blockers, and that prevents us from actually being spiritual. And therefore, our egos try to play this game of attaching a destination to which we attach our peace and our enlightenment and our happiness, and then we keep acting our blockers in this world anyway, just sort of passing away that enlightenment, that spirituality to that future self, and that future never arrives. So yes, I think that is what I would want to tell you. Whatever choice you make, I would direct you to see episode 1 of season 2 of my podcast, where I talked about how to find the purpose to your life. I would direct you to that episode, and I would invite you to act on the different questions that I asked in that episode, the different questions that I put forward, so that you can use them to find a purpose to your life. And whatever comes up as the answer for you, consider that to be your choice, consider that to be your responsibility. Do not be too attached to that victim identity that I have to do this because society is so and so and people are so and so. Own up to your life, own up to the choices that you can make, and that's it. Don't be too attached to yourself, and keep conjuring up a higher self, keep expanding yourself, and that, if anything, is spirituality. I hope you find this answer useful. Until next time, peace out.